We are live, episode 8 of the Anabolic Mafia with myself and IFBB Pro Chris Mazzaro. What's going on, man? You're looking extra huge.
What's up, man? Yeah, I'm feeling extra huge. Feel like I walk around with a rucksack on.
How much weight are you up since you started your off season?
From the show?
Um, uh, from the show to till the guest from the show, guest posing till now.
All right, so the show, I was like 219 and a half. On stage of the guest posing, I was about 252. And then right now, I woke up at 271. So it's
Now,
working.
some people may say, yeah, it's working. Some people may say that it's extreme, but especially after we pulled back on the reins after the show, especially
Yeah.
with the Hashimoto's. You did 2 shows back to back. I just feel like your body is just so primed now. Your thyroid meds are
Mm,
dialed in. I
yeah.
think that's
Doctor just upped that, by the way, to 175. So
from what?
one from 150.
From
Dr.
150,
Levo?
the T4. Yeah.
Yeah. So T3 still staying low and everything, but I mean, I think that was huge because my ability to like digest my food and like feel energy, because I felt like lethargic as shit before with my thyroid like not working as well. So
Yeah, I think that's a good short topic we could touch on. I
yeah.
think we've spoken about it before,
Mhm.
but especially from I mean, listen, the last off seasons we had, you were in the field a lot. Sleep was all over the place. Your Hashimoto's was undiagnosed. And then earlier this year, you went in the T4. Um, Post USA's, your doctor decided
Mhm.
to keep you on a low dose of T3. And we just got your blood work back, and your bloods were fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, I was happy with that. APOB looking good. So like my heart's looking good and everything. My lipids look pretty solid. HDL was like a little low, but like in overall like not bad. And the A1C, which is the thing I try to look at a lot for like off season, was pretty solid. It was like four and
4.9.
change. Yeah, 4.9. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So
really good. How do you feel in the gym right now?
strong, pumped, feeling good. Because like I mean, like you feel like a little weak before the show. Obviously, that's why I'm like when people are like, oh, if your strength starts going down, it's a bad sign. Time to refeed. I'm like you got to get that shit out of your mind. If you want to be shredded, you're gonna be a little weak, but yeah, no, I was comfortable. I kind of jokingly, you can't really see it that well in the video I posted, but I was just having a conversation while I was inclining 315. So that was pretty comfortable. But no, I feel good, man.
Yeah, you look full blown. Full. How do
The,
you feel so far compared? What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say like so the biggest thing too is we talked about this last time about like I'm bodybuilding full time now basically so between I'm taking clients to the gym and stuff, yeah, but like that's like not much time out of my day. um Coaching still but my whole day revolves around eating, and recovery is a big one. So I went from the worst part about when I was in like I'm not that I'm out of the army, but when I was in and out of the field, 4 hours of sleep here, 3 hours of sleep, no sleep, all this shit. Now I'm averaging 8 to 10 hours. Like I am sleeping like a fucking bear every night. And that, and then I'm sponsored by this local like physical therapy place. So um, Arctic Chiropractic and PT. So little plug right there. No, they've been awesome. So we're doing every discipline of recovery for me. From like, there's a girl there who helps me stretch because I'm not the most flexible person, about my hips and shit, my back. So then I obviously get the chiro work. I massage work. They have all these devices and stuff too. But then they're doing that shock therapy, and I'm telling you right now that shock therapy really, really worked. Like I had that issue with my bicep. One
Yeah.
session is like 90% gone because like on a Zoom lateral raise, it wasn't curls. It was like when I squeezed, like
Hmm.
it would hurt. So I'd have to just hang it in my fingers when I was doing lateral raises. Because it was when I like squeezed with my thumb, it like bothered my forearm.
Hmm.
And one session that was like gone. And then we did it for my upper back. I was kind of having a little bit of neck issues, gone. And then I was like, you know what? I had a friend um, do it for scar tissue, and I was like, let's give it a shot. Like on my delts and my lats and stuff. And then when I was getting massaged, normally when I get my lats done, it's like a little bit sensitive because there's a lot of nerves over there by the ribs. And whatever lumpiness was there was legitimately gone on one side, and the other side is almost gone. So if you're watching this and you know a physical therapy place or a chiro place that has the shockwave therapy, I highly recommend if you're a bodybuilder, especially for where you do your freestyle.
It's my old he's semi-retired now, Dr. Nick Ruggiero. He works with the Miami Dolphins, the Florida Panthers. He had a practice not too far. He was there forever. I got him from Flex Lewis. He was big with shockwave therapy.
Nice.
And I remember him saying, I remember he was doing it on my shoulders once. No, on my knee, which was horrific. It was like
Oh,
2 years. Dude,
it fucking hurts.
horrific. Chris, this was horrific.
Yeah.
It's like it's like kind of like when you go on where the actual injury is. I don't know what it does, but it was horrible. But I remember asking him, I'm like,
It feels like
would
a tattoo, but worse. That's what I say.
no, God, no, I would take a tattoo over that any
Yeah,
day of the
that's what
week.
I'm saying. I was doing it on my
Oh
lat,
my
and I was
God.
like, I was sitting there, I was
Hell
like,
no.
oh, because it was like going through and hitting my ribs too. I was just like, and I had to have my arm up, and I was like, bro, this is terrible. I had to say uncle a couple times. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's horrible. But I remember asking him, like, would this be good for like scar tissue and injections? He was like, absolutely. But it's funny we talk about the shockwave therapy because he semi-retired. He still works with teams earlier this year. I went to another chiropractor and they had this someone in the office, dude. I mean, not him. This was 2 months ago. And I have shoulder issues, but they're
Hmm.
tolerable, especially once I get going with training. I don't know if they did it incorrectly or what, but ever since that day, dude, the pain I had the day after was so abnormal. It felt like things were broken up in my shoulders that probably should have been broken up. And ever since then, I have been not in pain, but I've been in pain. But my left shoulder locks up, especially, when I'm doing Muay Thai or boxing,
Yeah.
horribly.
So you gotta be careful. So okay, once again for the listeners, but you gotta be careful with this. So I did a ton of research because that's what I nerd out on when I should be sleeping. Um,
Hmm.
you have to be careful when you're doing it because yes, you can do connective tissue, but you have to change the settings to very, very light because if you're doing certain connective tissue, you can actually break up connective tissue. So it's not supposed to really break up muscle because muscle is more like pliable, and like rubbery versus not rubbery, but just softer. So the waves go through it. But when it hits scar tissue, that's when it breaks it up. You can also do that to like tendon and ligament, which is not good. Not good for bone. Like you can literally decalcify bone if you're right on top of bone. So yeah,
That's Chris. I remember when it was happening. I'm like, all right, it hurts. But later that day, I remember telling Stephanie, I'm like, man, my shoulders feel not right. And the next day, it was hard. And ever since then, they have not been the same. It did feel like bones or calcifications that shouldn't have been broken up
yeah,
got broken up. So I have to warm up a little extra for my training. But towards the end of my training, if I throw a lot of jabs or use my left hand a lot,
yeah.
it starts to like catch and I can't hold it. Like here, it's tight as fuck. I mean, it was tight before, but
I
now
remember
it's,
when we were working out, bro. Like you're like you had such
yep.
limited mobility, bro.
Yeah. Which is weird because if you force my arm behind my back or anything, it'll go. But when it comes to training, like weight training, it won't happen. So,
Yeah,
but whatever. It is what it is. So I'm glad that's working for you. I also want to ask you something too. Like me and a client of mine yesterday were having a conversation about peptides. Um, KPV, thymosin alpha 1. He was asking about, he's going through a gut protocol right now using L37. I already know the answer, but with your Hashimoto's, have you noticed a difference with the KPV and thymosin alpha 1 since adding it in?
yeah. So I do like the full protocol and everything, but so there was like levels to each one. So I don't know if because of the if it was because of the Hashimoto's, but like I don't have a gallbladder too, so like my digestion is not the best, or it definitely could be better. But the KBV definitely helped with that. Um, Local inflammation and overall inflammation went down immediately, and also my body's ability to recover after the show, like with getting my liver enzymes down. Like, come on, like that's not normal how fast they came down, and
No.
no, so like there's got to be some proof in that pudding. But the biggest difference for me was I um my overall like outbreaks and stuff from the Hashis went like way down, but they still weren't gone. You know, I still got some swelling here and there. Ever since the start of the thymosin, I my first week there, I did a milligram twice a week, but then I dropped down. We've been just doing 1 milligram a week,
Yeah.
and I haven't had a single bit of swelling. And when I say swelling, guys, like so, I would just be sitting there watching TV, and my tongue would swell up, and I couldn't talk. Like my throat would swell up, and or like my hands would get like literally red, like I put my hand on frying pan for no reason, and then it just go away. So I haven't had any issues at all since I started thymosin. So I mean, there's got to be something in the water there. So I highly recommend it, at least trying it. You know, if you're having some kind of issues with inflammation or from uh, autoimmune. So, and I told you I heard from C-Bum. So he's the one who's
Yeah.
using it for his. I don't know what his issue is, but
He has, I forgot what autoimmune condition he has. I don't remember the name. Yes, I think you sent me that video.
mhm.
And but yeah, but definitely just I want to put this out there too. Like just don't, like me and Tommy, we were having this conversation. Like you don't want to throw the kitchen sink with these immune peptides either, because you don't want to make your immune system so overreactive to where, because that can happen too. Because we were talking
Yes.
about L37, which that's like at the top of the food chain when it comes to immune peptides. Um, the Omega Amino have the thymosin alpha one,
No, I've been using Modern for them. So
but
I
they have
because I work with both of
KPV.
them. Yeah,
Oh,
we have KBB too. So I mean, if legit the owner of Omega, like Chase, recommends Modern for what he doesn't have, I know that it's good. So that's why I work with both of them. And Modern's been solid. I like that. I like all their stuff. You know, like their glutathione, it doesn't hurt. Their carnitine doesn't hurt. So I know it's good because they are not all created equal. So if you guys are looking at these like amino sites or peptide sites, and you think they're all created equal, they are not for sure.
no,
And you see these ones that look like they just printed out a random sticker and threw it on a bottle. They probably did.
they
If the
did.
prices seem too good to be true, they are. You know.
Yeah, they definitely did, because these sites become a dime a dozen. So yeah, that's another shameless plug. Modern Amino and Omega Amino. Oh, nice, dude. Anything else
We
going on? What are you gonna say?
we both have our code. So mine's CMAS for both. Dom's is what's yours for modern?
IFBB Dom. Made me
Yeah.
think for a
So
second.
yeah,
IFBB
split it
Dom.
up. Split it up for both of us. Give us some support. Um.
So I know we had some questions that were left over that we could
Yeah.
go down rabbit holes in.
hmm So yeah, I'll. This could be a big conversation here anyway, because it's kind of what we're talking about anyway. Um, let me bring this up. So we've talked about this in the past a little bit, but someone was asking what's the most optimal way to grow in the off season, food, PEDs, training, etc. And I think we can kind of hit every subject kind of in depth here. Um, So I'd say
Okay.
the first thing I would say is before any of this kind of stuff is we've talked about this before. Blood work and health comes first. Making sure that your body fat isn't like through the roof. Like if you think that you're going to start like an off season grow protocol and you're at like 30% body fat, that's not going to be a great way to start because your insulin sensitivity is going to be in the shitter probably. Um, who knows where you're with where all your other blood markers are. So make sure you're getting your blood work first. Make sure you're in a good spot. And usually when I get a client, I'll usually trim them down quite a bit before I'll start their off season. What do you think,
Trim them
man?
down with body fat.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, just so nothing gets lost in translation. No, I agree 100%. Health markers always first, because I know you've heard this before. I feel great. My blood work has to be fine. But, you can feel great, or you perceive as great, and there could be a perfect storm brewing on the inside.
Mhm.
I remember years back, not to go too off topic, but a guy comes to me, he lived in another country, and he's nice. I feel great. These other coaches have told me to do X, Y, and Z. He sends me his blood work. His EGFR was 19. His creatinine was almost 10. And I'm like, thank God we did blood work. I mean, I got
Yeah.
him on board with Dr. Thomas O'Connor to make sure he gets
Yeah.
the proper treatment for his kidneys. Wound up being okay. Anyways, that was 2018, 2017. And that's when it really stuck in my head, like that has to be a staple. I mean, aside from growing optimally, making sure that the thyroid markers and everything are there, you can literally think you feel okay, but have something severely wrong. And all it takes is that one more push to make things go catastrophically wrong.
Yeah,
So definitely with you on that. And yeah, I mean, you need to have a decent starting point body fat wise when it comes to putting on muscle. Because if you're fat and you just start eating in excess, what's going to happen? You're probably
just
just
gonna
going to
get
get
fatter.
more fat anyway. I
Mhm.
mean, there are some body types, like I know guys that the younger guys, they still kind of have like that body, that baby fat,
Yeah,
and they kind of have to put on a little extra fluff to get big. And as you age and you accrue more muscle tissue, obviously staying leaner will be easier. But yeah, I definitely agree that going through like a mini cut, if we want to put a term on it, before starting a full growth phase, and just making sure, like you said, they're fully insulin sensitive and digestive health as well. We
yeah,
want to make sure that the digestive systems is working.
and you're not gonna like maintain your way to giant size. It doesn't work like that.
Um,
So uh, you can't be totally afraid to have a little bit of body fat on you, but at the same time, like if you're, I've said this before, if you just start jiggling, you're probably a little bit too fat. If you pinch more than an inch all over the place. So, um, but what I was gonna say too is the amount of pushback. It's not even pushback. It's like people telling me like, oh yeah, I'll get the blood work, and then they just never do. And then they're so quick to ask me, like, oh, like, what about GH? What about this drug? What about this drug? They spend all the money in the world on that, but they're afraid to just go check their bloods, or they're afraid to check their bloods because they might see something that's wrong and scare them. It's like, what? Like, that makes no sense. Like, you're not going to take your car to the shop to go get your oil change. Oh, no, you could change your oil yourself. You know what I mean? Like, you got to service the freaking car. I don't
it's or
understand
may
that.
or don't be like me and ride around on a motorcycle tire that's 10 psi because it has a hole in it, and I didn't check the air for 2 months until I realized my bike is not running right. Same thing with your body.
Dude.
With your body, it could end catastrophically wrong. Something really bad can happen, and that's why it has. And as you know, it has become. I even any consult that and anybody, I tell them blood work is mandatory. It
Yeah.
is not a optional thing. When I request it, you will do it. If you can't do it, then I
And
guess
not
it won't
month,
work.
not fucking 8 weeks from now.
No,
No, like right
no.
now. Like it's not negotiable. There's weight. I don't negotiate anymore. That's a big thing that's changed in my coaching. Like I just don't negotiate. There's certain things that have to come first, and blood work is one of them. I got to see what's going on, especially if I suspect something being off. You know,
Okay, go buy GH trend insulin, this that, no problem. Blood work. Oh, you got to give me a few weeks.
and a lot of times, I mean, they won't buy the vitamins, minerals too. Like they're not going to buy
No.
protein. Oh, whey isolate, that's too expensive. I'm just going to use gold standard, like or whatever. I'm like, come on, bro. Like, you're not going to spend $10 more. Oh, I'm not going to buy the. I won't buy the lean turkey. I won't buy the lean beef. Can I just get like 70/30 and rinse? Have you seen that? The people rinsing out their beef just to spend $2 and
I,
get the good beef. I don't get it,
I would hope nobody is doing that I'm working with. That's why
bro.
we
I
try
saw
to be as
videos.
specific.
I saw
No,
videos
no,
of these
that's
guys
that's
buying
terrible.
70/30 and then rinsing. I'm like, okay, so also you're paying for 30% fat anyway, so you're kind of like losing money, aren't you? But
Yeah,
and they're rinsing their beef out in a strainer. I'm like,
sounds pretty fucking nasty to me.
someone's gonna argue like, no, dude, it works, bro. That's fucking gross. Just buy the good
That's
shit.
disgusting. Just buy the leaner one. But we've spoken. These are the same people that will spend money on nonsense: wolf clothing, Gasp clothing, Jordans, um, just things that just aren't a necessity. But tying back into what we're talking about,
Yeah,
the health supplements, the blood work, making sure they're in a good position, and just to touch on digestive health as well. Because eating in excess, which is off season, no matter which way you want to put it, it is a lot of food. It's going to place more stress in the body. So if you're starting out in an already poor state of health with your gut, it can only lead to bad. And I've seen this before. Some guys require extreme amounts of food, and over time, that can lead to SIBO or H, whatever it is, H. pylori, whatever it is.
Mhm.
I've seen it. So making sure that, going through the checklist, if we want to call what do your stools look like? Are you bloated? Are you gassy too much? Are
I don't
you
want pictures,
burp?
bro. That's good.
Listen, I've asked for pictures before
Let me
because
see your
I
shit,
mean,
bro.
so yeah, it's true though. Because listen, you can't get a clear answer. Like, all right, like send me a picture. Like, it's watery, but it's not watery. So is it diarrhea? No, it's not diarrhea. So what is it? Yeah. So what is it? So I mean, I gotta ask for a picture. It's disgusting, but
Yeah.
that's why it's important to go through that checklist to make sure, because at the end of the day, you are what you absorb, right? You can eat
Mhm.
all the food in the world, but if you're absorbing half of it or three-fourths of it, where's the rest of that going? It's going to not muscle growth. It's going to not so good
In
things,
the fucking
and which
sewer.
leads, yeah, pretty much, yeah, that's what your body turns into. So making sure your digestive health is in a good place before starting, but that also ties back into like what you were saying about leaning out a little bit and cleaning things up. That'll be that phase to clean things up and prime them for the growth phase to come.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think a lot of people have no idea that they have bad digestion until they have good digestion. And then you're like, oh my God, I live
Yeah.
like that? You know?
I think that just speaks for society as a whole. People are so used to feeling not well that not well is a new norm,
Hmm.
you know, or they just don't know, some people just don't want to know. And it's unfortunate, especially with the state that our quality of food is in. People just pounding their bodies that they think it's normal to feel a certain way, and in reality it's not, and later on you're going to pay the price for that in some way. So I think digestive health is another big one. um, what else do you have to add to that piece?
No, I think we hit everything like before you get started. I think that's the main thing. Like you just got to make sure that your health is in good standing before you get started. I think a lot of people I think there's a misunderstanding when they reach out to a coach, especially one who looks the way I do or looks like the way you do and everything, and they see your clients. They're like, okay, I'm going to go hire Chris, and then he's just going to give me as much drugs as I need, and that's the idea. And then they forget all the other stuff. Like that's like my not even on the top five of my prerogatives. And they don't understand that. And I think that people really have a misconception of what it means to be a professional at this sport, which means they're doing all this other stuff. Like there's a percentage over here that might go into enhancement, but it's all the other things that add up. Like yes, genetics are a thing, but I'm not growing like this on accident. It's because we have everything else dialed in. It's because we're eating clean all the time. Like we're dialing that diet all the time. It's not if it fits your macros. You're not just giving me random macros and I just go fuck off all week and do my best. The vitamins, the minerals, the supplements. And I was talking about that before with someone because they reached out. They said, "Hey man, are any of these pre workouts or intra workouts even worth it? Do you even need protein? It's just all drugs, right?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And it makes me really sad to think that people actually believe that. I'm like, yeah, dude. Like, what do you think testosterone does? Like, yeah, I mean, it's an agent to help you with recovery, absorption, but like if you're not giving yourself any nutrients, there's no hypertrophy. So,
Well, that's what most of these kids and people today think. You just take drugs and you grow. Is it a part of bodybuilding? There's no way around that. But again, this makes me think of somebody who recently just hired me, and I looked at his diet, and he's told me prior he's had trouble putting size on. He's naturally a smaller guy. Shrinks down. I look at his diet. I'm like, man, he's not really eating like anything. He's eating like 4 ounces of meat a meal. Everything else was really in the lower side. And I'm like, the first thing that stuck out of my head was, dude, you're just not eating enough.
mhm,
It doesn't matter. Like, let's take this person for example. If I was to pump him full of drugs, sure, will he see some sort of growth and progression? Yeah, but there's always a ceiling to that. So it goes back to that old school, what works, way of thinking of, the food is literally going to be everything when it comes to putting on muscle. You can jab when we've seen on the internet, people jab themselves full of drugs, and we know damn well there is not much food behind it, or even
mhm.
training hard, which we'll get into training. Um, again, of course, that's a very general blanket statement. I'm not saying just go out there and eat everything under the sun, and you have to build up the metabolism to be able to handle it. Um, but yeah, it's funny how we used to hear about eat to grow, and that has slowly gone away.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I'm not going to get like mad at the individual for asking this. It's a product of his environment. It's a product of social media. And I don't know if you've seen the people talking about like those studies were like, oh well, we've seen that if obviously diet alone does this much, training does this much, training plus diet does this much. Oh, but taking steroids does all this without even those, according to the study. It's like, wait, what are you actually talking about? You're talking about someone who's never touched anything in their life. They don't lift, they don't eat, and then they took testosterone. Then yeah, they're probably going to get some kind of muscle growth from that. But when you're talking about becoming an elite bodybuilder, it is way more impact on the food and the training. And then lastly would be the enhancement. And the key word there is enhancement. It is
Mm,
there to enhance your physique. I remember Flex Wheeler said that. And I've always remembered that. And he said that like 30 years ago. These things are to enhance you, not to build you. Like Lavroni was like 26 before he ever took anything. And people don't believe that. He was already jacked, you
it's
know?
true. Well, even Andrew jacked. Listen, we're not, and again, we're not saying that drugs aren't a big part of the equation here, but it's just gotten lost in translation of, like you said, people being a product of their environment, social media. Um, not everybody wants to eat all that food.
No.
You know,
So I guess so since it's in the order there. Okay, so when it comes to
Mhm.
food, without giving away our secrets and stuff, like what's your general idea of growing someone via like when you think of food, when you think of like building a program for someone, and I know that you don't do anything cookie cut. I don't either. I could never memorize someone's plan because this person and this person are way different. But generally speaking, um, when you start building a plan for someone to grow, what are you aiming for?
Again, it depends on where they're starting off at. My thing is I like to build the food up. It's not you come on board, we need to grow. All right, you're in a good place. You can't slam the food out of because they're going to hit. It happened to me in most of my off seasons where I was slammed with all this food out of the gate, and I did it anyway. But thinking back, it didn't make sense.
It's kind of
I
like a
would
funnel. Like
rather
you put too much, it just sits there. It won't even go down the funnel.
that's the perfect way to put it. So I'd rather build up the demand over for it over time, but there's also attached to that because I found if it happens too quick with some people and the metabolism does drive up that high, you're just feeding the metabolism for the sake of feeding it and not for muscle growth.
Yeah.
So I have done that with clients and I've caught it to where I'm like, man, they're not really growing. I'm positive they're eating all their food, but their metabolic rate has to be so high that they're just burning through it. So it has to be done in a way that's, yes, methodical, built up over time as they're calling for it. But of course, making sure it's enough food. Again, this is a very general statement. I know I sound like a
Yeah.
politician. It's making sure it's enough food to sustain the recovery, to sustain the workouts, to where they get stronger, to where they're actually putting on muscle tissue. Um, I don't drive protein up that high
Hmm.
because, especially in the office, we have plenty more to work with in terms of carbohydrates and healthy fats. For me, it's going to be carbohydrates for most people before fats. Fats are going to come later on because then we're slowing down the gastric emptying and
Yes.
possible insulin sensitivity, especially when you're
Hmm.
comparing fats and you're pairing fats with carbs,
Yes.
building it up from there, using them again as a different nutrient source and going for it. Now what I will say is there are certain points in some people's bodybuilding career journey where the protein does have to go up higher, right?
Hmm.
Can their stomach handle a higher amount of protein? When I say higher, it's whatever that individual may call for. Maybe some people, that's a lot of protein. But if their stomach is not showing any signs of distress, their gut is fine, they're handling it fine, then listen, protein does help grow muscle. I mean, we've seen it throughout time. Now, when it's
Hmm.
overdone, it can horribly impact the gut. We've seen that with the distended
Yeah.
stomachs.
You don't want to like
So I do
fermenting in your gut all day. That's a big thing.
that is, and then it leads to the SIBO and some of these other issues that we're just touching on. So it is a slow build up on the way up as the body calls for it, but it's definitely getting them to a good place to where, okay, I feel good. I feel energetic throughout my day. My workouts are progressing every single week. My recovery is there and just going up off of there. I mean, shit, let me see something. Let me pull up your plan real quick. You care if I give some examples from your diet?
No, go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah.
So we have you now. This isn't an insane amount of food. With it depends on the eye, right? We have you on 5 meals a day plus a shake. Shake has whey isolate, cyclic dextrin. Meals 2 to 3 are 8 ounces of cooked protein. Meal
Oh,
5 is 8 ounces of cooked protein. So that's 4 meals of 8 ounces cooked protein. Meal 1 is egg whites, 300 grams, 2 whole eggs. So is it a crazy amount of protein for you? No. But your carbohydrates are pretty damn high. All your rice meals are pretty much almost up to 400 grams per meal. Veggies are on the lower side. Um, Additional fats, we pulled them out recently for certain reasons. And then your off day diet is a bit lower in carbs. You do have some more veggies and some more fats in there. But just to give people a kind of insight, like you're 271 and this is what you're eating. Now, could it be higher? Some people say, oh,
well,
you could
dude,
eat more than that, but there's no
I've got guys
reason.
like 200 pounds who eat as much as me. Like
You
they're
see,
so it's very, very much individual based. You know, I'm a big believer on the protein thing too, and I usually tell people, like, especially if they're just learning how to make a plan for themselves. I'm like, figure out how much protein you want to have first. Generally, about 1.5 to 2 grams per pound to grow. That's generally speaking. And I think we're right about 1.5 grams, but we don't do the fucking macro thing. Someone's like, how much grams of protein? I'm like, I don't know, like 350,
600,
400, a
600, tell
million,
them.
thousand. I think it's like 400, but like I really don't know. I genuinely don't know, and I don't give a shit. I know that this amount of food is equating to this result right now, and then generally build carbs from there. And I have the same mindset where it's like carbs are going to be the majority of the calories from that point, and then fats it just depends. Because it depends on the person. Sometimes I do need to throw them in for some people because I find some people might need the fats to grow, especially if they're like in that foundational phase. They have a super fast metabolism and I need to
Yep.
slow it down a little bit. Like they're just burning through food, they're starving again. I'm like, all right, let's slow it down. Sometimes I do slow it down with protein, but I'm like, okay, let's try some fats in there. Um, and something that I try to bring up because I see people like dirty bulking. When you're eating a ton of sugar and a ton of fats all at the same time, that's generally how you're going to start building plaque up, over time.
That that's the American diet.
Yeah. So when you have saturated fat, trans fat, nothing wrong with being trans, but the trans fats aren't good. um, and but those saturated trans fats mixed with like higher sugars and stuff are going to be a no go. But if I'm throwing in like olive oil, macadamia nut oil, or like almond butter, things like that with the monounsaturated, they tend to do better. And that same thing too. Am I going to choose an oil or am I going to choose nut butter? Because that's going to be different because one's not a pure fat. It's got protein, others carbs in it and shit too. That's going to digest even slower than like throwing like a macadamia nut oil or something. So I think we've that's why I enjoyed working with you in the beginning is because we had a very similar mindset of what I was taught from Jason, you know, and from other people who I learned from and stuff. So I'm definitely not against fats either, by any means, because I've had some people on keto diets, like not bodybuilders, but I'm not against fats.
Yeah.
Just has to be done correctly. And then if I have someone taking insulin, I'm probably not going to throw a bunch of fats in their diet too, because you're just going to get fucking fat, you know. So, which I don't know if you want to expand on that, if you have clients doing that.
Yeah. So I mean, and so I use insulin very sparingly. It has to be somebody I trust and I've worked with for a long time with to be able to trust that they will be doing the right thing with the dosing because that can be messed up very easily. So there's that. Two, I'm not this big insulin guy either. I don't feel like it's this game changing compound like some claim. Now, listen, can it yield? big gains, if we want to call it with certain people, yeah, but the quality of it isn't really all that
Yes.
it's
I
meant.
think that's we talked about people losing lines and stuff too. I think that that's a big part of it, you know. There's so much there that can be fucked up with insulin, like with the timing of
Yeah.
the food and up, not just for dangerous reason, for dangers, for for like safety reasons. I mean, but like for just like comfort, like your ability to eat and then be able to control your stomach while you're training. And there's a lot more in there that could fuck up your stomach or your lines and everything than just like going hypo or something.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at a lot of the guys coming out of the 90s into the 2000s, and we had that phase, the mass monster phase, where everybody was big, but the lines were getting worse.
Yeah.
Growth hormone, what was the main changes coming out of the 90s into the early 2000s? Pharmaceutical growth hormone and
Hmm.
insulin, a
Yep.
lot of insulin. So I like to use it very sparingly. Again, I have to trust the person too. I don't like to use a lot of it in any way, shape, or form or for long periods of time. One thing I do disagree with is there is this notion out there that you need to use insulin with GH to fight off the insulin resistance that comes from GH. Well, let me say this on here. I have never used insulin to counter insulin resistance from growth hormone. I rarely ever get anybody who becomes insulin resistant on growth hormone because we're monitoring the diet correctly. We're
Hmm.
using over the counter GH, over the counter over the counter supplements, GDAs, not
Yeah.
GH. My God, my brain is fried today after training, so don't mind me, guys. I'm a bit slow. So, I've heard of some people using Lantus like all year long because they have G8. No, that makes the issue worse that I've seen.
Yes.
There's no reason to do that. If you're going to use insulin, it is a nutrient driver, to put it simply. That's all it should be used for at certain times. It should not be this magical unicorn that it's sometimes made out to be, or this band-aid that, oh, I'm going to take higher growth doses of growth hormone and use insulin with it. That leads to a not so good look. And I'm sorry, the people that preach it, I'm not really impressed with their physiques or the physiques that they produce. So I stand very strongly on that. Again, it's a tool just like everything else. So
Hmm.
without rambling on too long, insulin's used very sparingly with what I do.
Yeah.
There's so many other ways we can do things without. And again, I think insulin was also looked at something, and it can be used to put on weight and size really fast. But at what cost?
Hmm.
There is a cost, like you just said. You do risk losing the lines in your. It's just a weird look that comes to the muscle with it, and or the stomach. So again, it's just a tool at the end of the day that needs to be used right.
And we're talking about that too. So like you talk about trust. So it's not you, it's not for everybody. Okay. First of all, it's just not for everybody because of whatever maybe their health markers, but also you need to be able to trust if that person can't like take their fucking vitamins on time. If they can't, if they're just all over the place with their timing, like they're just a mess, like their life is a mess. Some people's lives are a mess, is what it is, you know. And now you're going to add this other thing where like, okay, now you have to take this, time that out, especially there's different kinds of insulin. There's fast ones, there's like medium ones, so like, okay, there's timing out when you should have your carbs afterwards, how much carbs, make sure you're measuring your carbs right. And then like, uh, don't mix up because I've seen people mix up their insulin versus like their growth hormone or something, which is very, very 1 IU to 1 IU is not the same. It's 10 times the amount. So they're like, oh, I thought I was taking my growth, but I actually took my slin and then I went hypo, so it's like not my client. Okay. Just throwing that out there. But I'm just saying you need to be able to trust that person to follow the protocol, do it right, and not cut corners and everything. And then there's the other part where I have to trust them too, that when you're utilizing these things, you're not trying to max out. You're not you know trying to break records while you're on insulin. You're gonna be so freaking pumped, you're gonna blow out a muscle. Okay. And so I generally try to stick with more sarcoplasmic, if we want to be all nerdy about it, training, like a little bit more higher rep, more pumping style stuff. I think that's going to really puff up the muscle a little bit more than doing like sets of 3 and 5 reps and stuff like that.
Shout out to Milo Sarchev.
Yeah.
Serious. That's
Sorry,
he loves
sorry.
the insulin. He loves the insulin with his giant sets.
No, I know.
We've spoken
You know I
publicly
do a lot
about
of
it.
reps.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, I love giant
I
sets.
love
I didn't get that from him. I'm just a psychopath, and I just like, oh, I could add more.
volume. Well, volume is a great driver for growth with or without insulin. Like we were kind
Thousand
of
percent.
joking a bit on your post. Um, yeah, that's another point we get into when we train. So that's insulin. What else didn't we touch yet?
Well, okay, so we talked about growth a little bit, talked about PEDs. Minimal effective dose for growth hormone. What do you think? Because I
20,
know Dave Palumbo have talked about it, and then there's like a maximum. What do you think?
20 minimum.
Just 20 I use right off the bat.
Just 20. No, I'm
Just
messing.
hit just one bottle of Saro at a time. All right, no more than
I'm
that.
messing. One in the morning and one at night. Upon waking, 36 I use a day. No, I am completely joking. But it again, it sound like politician when I say it depends on the person. But
There's no prescription across the board. People need to understand that.
no.
Just like we've talked about in the past with like GLPs and stuff. Like one person can take a half milligram, other person needs 5. So
Like
it's very very different.
I've seen 2 IUs work for people. Some people say that's a
Mhm.
waste of time. Why would you if it's driving up the IGF levels, how is that a waste of time?
Most of the guys in
That
the '90s talk about they took like 2, maybe 3. You know, that's all they
yeah,
could afford. It was $1,000 a kit.
exactly. And it worked. I mean, it was great GH, don't get me wrong. But
Yeah, that helps.
there's this so I was scrolling on the internet a couple of nights ago about growth hormone just to see there's a lot of people in the general public now taking growth hormone with the peptides being out and access to Chinese growth hormone.
Mhm.
These are everyday people talking about running 10 IUs a day. 10 IUs a day, regular everyday people. So, I mean, for me, like I said, I would like to start with the lowest dose possible and try to hold that for the longest period of time. 2, 3, maybe 4 IUs. See how that does for you. Now, what I will say is, I have tried it. I have tried 15 IUs a day when I was trying for my comeback. I believe that was the max that I've done. I'll put that out there. I'm pretty sure that was a number. Don't quote me on that. I did not need to go over 10. I all I had was more water retention. I did not need to go over 10. Um, so did I notice a big difference between 5 and 10? Absolutely. But that's after half my life bodybuilding. I built up to that point. Taking that 15 was not fun. I was also not monitoring my glucose levels. I was doing
Mhm.
all the things I would tell people not to do. Did it work? Yeah, it worked. But when I raised it from 10 to 15, it wasn't really anything that I would call home about, to be honest. Um, so again, if you're an amateur, 2, 4 IUs, stick with that for a long time. Monitor your blood sugars every week. Make sure that they aren't rising. Don't use insulin to, fight the blood sugar the effects it could have in your blood sugar. And just because you have access to Chinese growth hormone for cheap doesn't give you the green light to blast a bottle a day. I
Yeah,
think it is nonsense to do such a thing.
it's retarded.
Nonsense. It's why would you? What are you going to do? Okay, so let's say if you do that,
And you
what
can
are you
get
going to
some pretty fucked up side effects. Like you can grow your nose and grow your fucking that Cro-Magnon brow. You know that you
oh,
just see
look
the
at me.
'90s
I
baseball
mean,
players.
yeah, well, look at me. I have
Your
that.
hands, your feet. See a guy who's like 5'7" with a size 13 foot. You know.
Well, I'm 5'9" with a size 13 foot. You're talking about me now?
Yeah,
Right?
I'm just saying. I mean,
That's true though.
I'm pretty
Listen,
close. Yeah.
it's true. I mean, I had a weird head before I even started growth hormone. I mean, look at the size of this thing. My
Yeah, but we're
sister's
two
just
fucking guineas with these big schnoz. Look at this. I still can't
yeah.
smell.
Yeah. Listen, it's there. We just expedite it a little bit. My
Yeah.
forehead, yeah. So thankfully though, I will have to say this is a good point to add in. I had an echocardiogram done back in April. And compared to 4 years ago, I had left ventricle, an enlarged left ventricle for a while. It was pretty much almost normal. The lady that did the echo, she goes, "Your heart is very, very strong." I believe my ejection fraction was 67, I believe, which was very good. She was like, for a guy your size, which I'm not as big as anywhere near I used to be, she goes, your heart
Oh,
is very good.
oh,
And even my doctor was like, what did you do to shrink this? I'm like, I stopped taking a whole bunch of growth hormone and steroids, and I've just done mainly cardio for the last few years. So I guess that did it. But I do want to put that out there that people don't talk enough about its effect that it could have on growing your organs. Like we've seen autopsies come out of certain bodybuilders where their heart, their lungs, and their kidneys were astronomical sizes. And knowing what these people took, what caused it, it's not just testosterone or whatever, growth hormone. So you don't want to be growing your organs either, because
no.
that's never a good thing.
Mm-mm.
So blasting these super high doses of growth hormone may make you feel like you're pumped all the time and make you feel like you're jacked, but you're paying a price somewhere else. So do I
Like, yeah, I
love
got this
growth
lower back
hormone?
pump all the time.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
Do I think growth hormone is an amazing tool? Absolutely, Tim. I wish sports would allow guys to take growth hormone because it would probably prolong their career and save them from severe injuries. Um, I think in bodybuilding it has amazing use. Better, it's more than a lot of the drugs, but it's one of those things that shouldn't be right now or viewed as let me just take that whole take as much as you could afford thing that has been said for a long time. I
Retarded.
think is nonsense. It's nonsense. I think that's
Yeah.
nonsense. You know,
And there's so then there's the idea of like, okay, so if it's generic, then 5 you should really take 10. And I'm like, no, that's not what that means. But there, I have been reading up a lot more about generics because we've had the conversation a few times, and there can be an issue with um what do you call it, the extra ingredients, what do you the fucking uh
fillers,
yeah, the fillers and stuff.
di-
So and it can cause is it called dimers or dimmers?
dimers,
Yeah,
dimmers, dimers. People could
yeah,
look
what,
it up. DIMERS.
yeah, yeah. So what that is when you start having like two of the proteins stuck together and they're inactive now. So some of these fillers that in these generics can cause more of these dimers because they're not as stable anymore and they don't mix as well. So you start getting clumps and shit. So like yes, that can make it so it's not as strong and everything, obviously, because it causes it to sting when you inject it. There's a lot of issues. So once again, these generics, not all generics are bad. I'm just saying that they're definitely not the same as a pharmaceutical one. And but that also doesn't mean you should just randomly buy it and then take double the amount because it's generic. That's also not what that means. That's
and cheap.
probably where that came from. You know, you get what you pay for.
Yeah, that's well. Again, this is going to be a argument that will last forever. But again, I say this: look at the physiques, look at the coaches who say that there is a distinct difference between pharmaceutical GH and generic and the people they have coached in their track record. Look at the physiques that say that.
Hmm.
There is a very big difference. And also, just to circle back onto what I said about most GH I used, I didn't even get to show what I built on stage. So I'm not condoning you to do that. It was for a very short period of time. It was horrible for me. So I'm not saying go take that much growth hormone. I'm pretty sure that was a number, it was somewhere between 13, 15, whatever the fuck it was. It was
Yeah,
a short period of time, but I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there very clearly to not, encourage anybody to go do that.
right.
Because I wouldn't even have a client do that. Daily. So that's growth hormone. Um,
Might as well let's talk about your stance on PEDs in the off season. Um, I think that needs to be talked about because there's a lot of bullshit going around about what's good, what this one is an estrogen blocker, this one's not. I think we need to talk
I
about that a
will
little bit.
say this: testosterone is king. It's always been king for a reason. The safer use crowd, we'll say Masteron and Primo, the same crowd that said EQ is bad for you now says EQ is the same as Masteron and Primo. Let that sink in. Now, am I against these people for
It's
trying to
not
push? It's not. No, not in any way, shape, or form. Nor is Masteron the same as Primo Bowling. It is
no,
not. If it was, they wouldn't be two separate compounds.
exactly.
Now, am I against these people for trying to put safer practices in place? No. Listen, it's cool. But let's be real. Testosterone will always be king. I would much rather somebody use more testosterone in the base of their cycle than anything else. If you don't like DECA, if you don't like NPP, use testosterone. If you should anyway. If you shouldn't be blasting Primo on a mass run, use a little more testosterone. Listen, the result that history speaks for itself. Look at the differences through time of drug use. And there are certain top Olympians who say one thing in a podcast and do another. And I know they use quite a bit of testosterone. Testosterone, for the most part, is a very responsible thing to use, given you are
Mm-hmm.
controlling your blood pressure, monitoring your blood pressure, making sure there's nothing going on there. Um, I love testosterone. Testosterone and GH, pretty safe
Yeah.
routes you can go. When it comes to the other exotic compounds, if we want to call it, and I know I sound like a bro scientist, that's fine. Again, it depends on some people can't take EQ.
Mm-hmm.
It'll sink their estrogen no matter what. Some people won't get that effect, but some people do get really bad anxiety on EQ due to its affecting the GABA systems in the body. Some people do great on it. Same thing with primobolan. Some people can't take primobolan at all because it just sinks their estrogen way too far down. And Masteron, I think, has some application as an anabolic, but it's not a be all end all. But things like DECA and MPP, if it's going to destroy you mentally, it's not worth taking. You'll feel better on testosterone, with
Or your
more
dick.
testosterone, or your dick. Orals in the off season, it depends on the person. For the most part, I'm going to say no because if for most people it can possibly affect your digestion, and if you can't eat, going back to what we were talking about before, it's a complete waste of time to take a drug if you can't eat. I would much
Mm-hmm.
rather you eat more than take a drug. But there are some people earlier in their bodybuilding journey that can take them and handle them. And what I've noticed is as guys get older, they can't tolerate orals in the off season, which is fine. Use testosterone; it's great. But yet, when
Yeah.
they're in prep and they're eating clean and they're getting leaner and inflammation is on the lower end, they can tolerate them. But for the most part, with orals in the off
Wait.
season, I
So you
tend to
tell
stay.
me. So you're telling me eating healthy is like good for you like year round? Does that like help at all in the
Man,
off season to grow?
that's too much hard work. That's too much hard work. That's too
Yeah.
much. I
I
only
I
I only tell guys to eat clean when they're getting ready for a show.
exactly right. Just burgers every day.
Yeah.
But no,
So,
I'm in complete agreement.
what? Same thing with the orals.
Yeah, I think so. First of all, I agree. Testosterone's king. Your body already makes it. It understands what to do with it. It's very easy to counteract estrogenic side
Mhm.
effects. It's very very simple, and we can get into like AIs and stuff eventually. But um, this whole idea now that let's just take like a gram of mast and then like a couple hundred milligrams of testosterone. I'm like, why? Okay, and also there's barely any mass out there right now. So a lot of people are getting it like, oh yeah, for sure. I know this guy for sure. It really is. And then I see him testing. It's like, yeah, it's MPP. So it's a lot of people are getting fake shit. I've seen mass P come as test P instead. So I don't know. Like Jay Cutler was talking about in like the '90s. You take what was available. Testosterone is pretty much always going to be available. It's and I when it comes to there's no such thing as safe steroids. I shouldn't say that, but when it comes to safety, it is on the safer end. We know what it does. We know how it works. It's very easy to manage. When it comes to other exotics, I guess I was always in the camp. I was taught very young. You don't need to be taking 10 things. I think generally speaking, you can usually live off of like one or two things at a time, and then you can change it up. It's very easy in your system. It's like you have a couple long acting things at a time. It works very well. That's why a lot of people will use testosterone and EQ. You know, um, and I've heard the 200 milligrams is the max of EQ. That's not true. I'm not going to start giving milligram prescriptions out here, but that is not the maximum. You can use a moderate dose of that with some testosterone. I think that works very well. But if it doesn't work for you, that's fine. Don't use it. And same thing with DECA. A lot of people like DECA. A lot of people like the shorter acting version, MPP, and that's fine. Same thing. I know people who would do like who did well in, like, let's say test and EQ for a certain amount of time. Then they switched and they did test and DECA for a certain amount of time, and just a couple injectables, long acting, and they could survive on most of their off season like that, and grow a ton of muscle on just the basics. The basics will always work. And some people, if they didn't, if they didn't do well on something like DECA because they were getting side effects, whether it be mental or physical and stuff, they did better on MPP, which is fine too. In other words, what I'm trying to say is you don't need to be stacking like five different things in the off season to grow. You know, a couple things tend to do just fine. Orals, same thing. I agree with the same thing. Um, if you don't need them, don't use them. If they're bothering your digestion, cut it out. If knowing timing is very, very important. Like if you're taking like Anadrol in the morning and you can't eat the whole day, okay, maybe try it before bed. That works for some people. If not, then don't take it at all. And back in the day, like when people were taking things like D-ball, they came in like little 10 milligram tabs. They would take 10 milligrams, 20 milligrams at a time. It
Chris,
worked great.
I used to love Deca and D-ball. I looked
Yeah,
horrible, but I definitely didn't hold me back from putting on muscle tissue. But I loved Deca and D-ball.
it works great. Like
It did. I
it,
don't. If I was still bodybuilding now, I don't know if my body would appreciate it.
no, but that's what guys were using like 50 years ago. If people think that the classic bodybuilders weren't taking gear, they fucking were.
D-ball. They love their D-ball and Deca.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's funny though how things change over time. And another thing I recognize too is ever since the emergence of social media and YouTube, where people talk about side effects and talk about things, all of a sudden everybody has them. Before any of the everybody, I can't take Deca. Oh, it makes you really depressed.
well,
Can't take
everyone's a
MPP. It
victim
makes
now anyway. Everyone's a fucking victim.
and that's I can't do
It's
this. I can't do that. Back then, we didn't. Nobody spoke about this stuff on YouTube. If you went into forums, it was, if you were on the forums, but you never really. I think another thing too. I mean, some people may call me crazy for this. I forgot what this is referred to as, but people will make up side effects in their head and convince themselves that they have them
fucking head cases.
because they saw somebody on YouTube or Instagram talking about it. They become so overly self-aware that they start convincing themselves that they have these issues when in reality they may not. I didn't back then. The only thing we really like were told about was excuse me, burping up my root beer. The only thing that we were told about was Decadec. I never had that, thankfully.
And titties. You don't want
Yeah,
a soft
I
dick. You
had
don't want soft
those.
titties.
I had titties. I had to get them cut out. They were huge, but that was because I didn't know anything about anti-E's or
I
real
just want a hard
pharmaceutical
dick and
anti-E's.
little tits. All right.
Yeah, but man, I was so but we didn't really talk in the gym about DECA depression or EQ depression or anything of the sort. And that's another thing that, listen, the internet is great. You can find so much information on it, but a lot of people have convinced themselves that they have issues. And that's really, they've convinced themselves into having these issues.
Yeah, everyone's
So
autistic
is it a
now too.
can it be a real thing? Absolutely. Absolutely. And it really should be navigated. I will never tell somebody if I give you Deca, which I wouldn't give you Deca right now anyway, with how much water you're prone to holding. But if I gave you and you said, Dom, listen, like mentally, I'm just not in a good, just using you as an example. I'm not saying you would do this. Just put
Yeah.
it out there. If you came to sit Dom, mentally, I'm not doing well in this. I would never say, Chris, just keep taking it. There's nothing wrong. You're fine because whether it be a real thing or not, it's still playing subconsciously somewhere and that is going to affect somebody. So, I also wanted to put that disclaimer on it too, is that just because I'm saying these things doesn't mean I wouldn't take them into account. So,
And so there's certain things that like I'm actually not going to speak publicly on because it's like I don't want people to just start playing scientist. But it's not just the drug by itself. There's something in balance going on. Like if estrogen is up and progesterone is up at the same time, you basically have like PMS. So like
mhm.
there's things that can and will be out of balance, and you start learning about your subject, your client, and you start saying, okay, well, let's that's where blood work can come in. If someone's like a very estrogenic person and they're getting certain side effects on like an androlone or a tren, we can see, okay, well, when these hormones are at this ratio, it's pretty fucked up. It's not working for you. It's not like just this drug alone is like causing all this. You need to understand the way progesterone, prolactin, estrogen, all these things, come into play when you're starting to mess with all your hormones. It's like a deck of cards. You start fucking with it, the whole thing's gonna fall down. So like that's where a lot of experience comes in, because these guys will just go buy all this shit and then just take it, and then there's this new thing where everyone thinks AIs are the worst thing in the world, when they're very, very useful tools to make sure that you're keeping everything in balance. Um, yeah, so I just want to make sure I put that out there. I don't want to give everyone like the keys to the castle on everything, because I don't like producing these little scientists out there that shouldn't be sciencing.
And we're not scientists either. We're just
No, I
guys
am not a
that
doctor.
no, we're not doctors, we're not medical professionals. We're just guys that like to talk about our opinion on some entertaining subjects.
Exactly. That's all it is.
You know,
So that and that kind of goes into the next subject too. So I want to talk about this because it freaking pissed me off. Masteron, Primo, and EQ are not the fucking same. Okay, and people need to understand that they don't do the same things. There's a lot of this bullshit on the internet where they're like, "Oh, you never need an AI anymore as long as you take Masteron. You don't need an AI if you take Primo." Same thing for EQ. It's so individualized, and also like Primo is not an aromatase inhibitor. It's not how it works. And the same thing with EQ. It's not the drug you think it is. Okay, I don't know if you want to expand on that, but
well, simply put, can they act in estrogen? Yes. Are they aromatase inhibitors like Arimidex or Aromazin or Electro? No.
mm-mm,
Nor do they produce that same look or effect that could come from AIs. Now, am I saying everybody needs AIs? No. But
mm-mm.
I do think it's quite funny how the same crowd that has said EQ is bad for you, never take EQ, has all of a sudden, since the shortages happened, saying it's the same thing as Masteron and Primo. No, they're
It's
not.
fucking not.
And everybody's response to these drugs are different. Again, some people can take EQ and it have no effect on their estrogen. Other people can take it and maybe it could tank it. It is unpredictable. Or, for instance, somebody can take it, have that effect later on. That same person's not going to have that effect.
Hmm.
Masteron and Primo, do they have an effect on estrogen? Absolutely, but in a much different pathway. We're not going to even get into all that. Um, can it work on blocking some of the effects of estrogen? Absolutely, but AIs have been demonized, and I do understand why. Right? We don't want tanked estrogen year round. In prep, for certain people, they have to do it. Listen, I know some estrogen is needed for fat burning. Some people, there's just no reason behind it. It works, but understanding somebody's blood work and why using the AI and finding the dose for them is not the end of the world. Let's
Yeah.
be, and I remember the same people that said that let your estrogen run as high as possible as long as there's no symptoms. Like for a short period of time, I started to buy into that for some reason. I'm like, well, it's possibly good for the heart, good for the joints, but wait a second. We're letting estrogen run rampant. So some people say they didn't have any side effects at 150, 200 total estrogen, estradiol, whatever. That is insane to me. That does not make sense to me. It does not make sense. Again, everybody's, and this ties into the fact that not all numbers are created equal. Your 40 on an estradiol test may not feel the same to me on an
Yes.
estradiol test.
It's
So
not the
yes,
same.
it's not. No, you may feel better on
Same thing with Q
60,
levels.
70, 80.
Like
Right.
500 me is not going to be the same for 500 for you. Like or whatever. So when you go get that's why like when you go to like a regular doctor, and they're not going to prescribe you testosterone unless you're like dying. But what people don't understand is, like I said, if you if I were to be 500, I probably feel like shit. Okay, because even when I was just producing testosterone naturally, I was in like the 900s. I've always been pretty much close to 1,000 when I was just completely natural as a kid. So if someone's natural high number is like maybe 600, then it's not so big of a deal if they're like at a 500. and also it just depends on, like I said, what that person's used to, what is normal for them is not going to be normal for the other person. So you can't just go off this blatant this blanket number that, oh, that number is what's healthy, that's what's unhealthy, and that goes across the board for other markers as well, not just hormonally. You know.
It's true. So that all ties into even the dosages. Not all numbers are created equal, but all these compounds aren't created equal. There is no blanket
Mhm.
compound for anything. Um, and again, the basics at the end of the day are always going to be king, no matter what,
Mhm.
and finding the right numbers for that individual. So I think that's enough of the PEDs. I'm kind of drugged out. What about you?
Yeah, no, I feel you. We drug it out too long.
Yeah.
All right.
Training. So let's
Training.
touch on training. What are your thoughts on training? We'll touch brief on training, and then I know we want to get into like another question or two.
Yeah, so I'm gonna talk about it like this. So I look at short term recovery and volume versus long term recovery and volume. There's two different subjects. So within training, I'm gonna start with this. So I I grew up strength training first. Okay, I think that there's a huge importance for a base of strength training. I do believe that, and what I mean with strength training, I mean which is lower volume, heavy weights, free weights. I think that's the biggest thing to build your base on. Like I grew up lifting with heavy squats, heavy presses, whether it be barbell or dumbbell, doing the basics, lateral raises with dumbbells. Everything was just what I could find in the gym. In the gym we had for football, it was all free weights, maybe like one cable rack. I'm not against it. Obviously, I'd use a lot of machines now, but I do believe that a base of strength training, like kind of like powerlifting style, is a great way to get going. And I still do have clients bring their volume down because I think some people respond better to lower volume, while some people respond better to higher volume. And I think that goes with their overall load that they put on themselves from their entire life, whether it be sleep, the food, all these things tying together to see what works best. Now, from there, I say this: as much volume as you can get in and recover from. So start here. You can keep adding more and kind of see what happens. And I think too many people are afraid of overtraining when they're not even fucking close. They're really not even close. And I say that because I've only felt truly overtrained one session of my entire life. And I know I might be a crazy freak or something like that, but it was the day that I broke Tom Platz's record. Believe me or not, I have the video. I did 500 for 24 reps in the middle of my leg day on a random fucking Tuesday. And then I continued my leg day and leg press whatever it was, like 1,800 pounds for multiple reps. And then before I did those squats, I still did a superset of like extensions and hamstring curls. And then I finished, I did more shit afterwards. I trained myself to the ground so hard I got a fever and I felt like I had the flu for like a day or two. That was overtraining. I think I gave myself rhabdo. So like there is such thing as overtraining, but because you did a few extra sets of legs and your legs are sore for a few days, I don't think that's overtraining. So my thing is get as much volume as you can in your session and for the week as you can possibly recover from. And the only way to find out is to fuck around and find out. When it comes to um, breaks and rest and everything, same thing. Um, I used to train like 6 days a week, take one day off. Now I need rest more often, so I do 2 days on, one day off, and I take rest more often. That way I can get more volume in more often. So that way I'm kind of fresher. So
Do you
I
feel
mean,
getting older has played a part in that?
yeah, but I'm also smarter now too. Um, I am stronger than I was when I was younger, so I'm stronger now, and I'm so. I know this is gonna sound cocky, but I'm so good at training now that I can target my muscles that much more that I really fuck them up a lot more in a good way. So I
That's a
need to
great
recover
point.
more often.
That
So
is a great point.
yeah. So that
It's the
connection I have now. Yeah, sure.
mechanical tension is much
Yeah.
stronger than when you were younger. That's a
Yes.
great point. Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt. I just thought that
No,
was
no.
good to
So,
point it
so
out.
yeah, I think people don't understand that too. Like, oh, well, Mike Mentzer only did this many sets, or okay. First of all, I don't agree with everything he said. Actually, I don't agree with like anything he said. But intensity definitely matters. But intensity through proper execution and your actual skill in the gym really matters. Before, I thought I was good. I was pretty good, and I've just gotten better and better at actually executing it and being able to feel each muscle, knowing what works, knowing what doesn't work, changing my angles. All these things mattered to be able to fuck my muscles up even more, which means I need to take breaks more often so I can recover. So before it was just CNS fatigue, which that you get over, you know.
But yeah, no, those are all good points. I was going to try to counter it, but there's nothing to counter. Don't mind me, I'm a little slow from the past 2 days of training. No, I'm definitely in agreement. I will always lean more towards volume for the most part.
Mhm.
But you brought up a good point as how most people usually start with some sort of deadlift, squat, bench. That's usually how everybody starts, right? Kids today don't really start with that. They're going straight for the machines and cables. So having that base there is going to be important. But I really don't have anything to add to what you said because everything was pretty fucking solid. I'm a fan of volume, as you know.
Mhm.
Volume for the most part is going to be king depending on the person. I think there has been two Dorian Yates. Again, I know we're talking about genetic
So
anomalies. I think there's only been
let's
him
talk
who
about
was
Dorian for a
trained.
second. I want to talk about Dorian for a second because I think people misunderstand what he would do. Because people are like, oh, he just did 2 sets no, okay. So I train for a similar amount of time in the gym as him, about 45 minutes to an hour. Legs take me a little bit longer because I have to warm up more. When he says 2 sets, it's 2 hard working sets till failure, right? And sometimes I do more than that. But he would do like 8 different exercises in a day. And each of those exercises, he would have to build himself up and say, oh, he would do a warm up set, maybe a build up set, then he would do his work sets. He still did 4 sets. Okay. So whether you want to look at it or not, he still did 4 sets in that exercise and then move on. And yes, sometimes, actually, most of the time, I build up more and then I back off and do like a back off set. So I'll do like, let's say I do my heaviest set of like 6 or 8 reps somewhere in there. Usually it's higher reps. I'm just saying if I'm training super heavy, and I'll still back off and do a set of 12, a set of 15, and just really annihilate myself on the way down because I'm like, okay, I stimulated myself as much as I can. Now I'm going to annihilate it with more reps, and I like those partials and all that shit.
Do you
But
ever
what
do
I'm
drop
getting at is,
sets? Oops,
oh
sorry.
yeah, yeah,
You do.
yeah, why not? I do drop sets, giant sets, partials. I do a lot of negatives, and if I have a partner with me, I'll do like force reps and stuff like that. Anything, you know.
So I know
Um,
you do, just for our people viewing to kind of just get in your mind a little bit more.
yeah. So, but in the end, and he said he trained 4 days a week. He didn't train 4 days a week. He did. He This is from Dorian's mouth. He did 2 on, 1 off, 2 on again, 1 off, and then he would go again. So he's training more than 4 days in that 7 day period. So I think he had more volume than people really understand. So he seemed really low volume, but I think he had more volume than people realize.
I think you're correct. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure you're
this is
correct.
from me listening to his interview. And if someone wants
Okay.
to correct me, send me a link. But that's from Dorian's mouth what he would do. So I think he did a little bit more.
But that speaks into he still did some sort of volume there. I think
Yes.
at the end of the day, volume is always going to be king for muscle growth and that specific look that we seek as bodybuilders, that super round, detailed look, because you have the quote unquote science based, which they're not, saying that low volume is good because a study said so, which they couldn't be completely wrong. So that's like this whole argument. I think we've spoken. This whole argument today is low volume versus high. Low volume is king. Why? It's not. So I'm always going to lean to higher
Well,
volume.
what is science, right? So just because there hasn't been a written down study doesn't mean it's not science. You know, when people talk about, oh, like the stretch position is the best. Okay, we already knew that. Like Ronnie was doing that a long time ago. We already knew that full range of motion isn't fucking up here. You know, you're doing a full big deep stretch. You know, and we didn't need, like I said, we didn't need that study. We didn't need it written down until 30 years later to be like, oh yeah, that was a good idea. You know, like we figured it out because the science is we try it, we figure it out, trial and error, and I've tried everything. And I will say, once again, not to be cocky, kind of everything works. I just found that higher volume is better for like overall like that plump round look. I do find I think it's good to train heavy sometimes within reason. You know, I'm not maxing out, but I think
But
train
that's
heavy
the
is
thing. You
important.
can still train heavy within your workout that has higher volume in it.
Yes,
Like you just made a
exactly.
good point. You had that one movement where you're training 6 to 8 reps. And sorry, I'm texting. I have a client in India
No, you're
competing
fine.
this weekend. He just woke up. Um, you can still get that heavy work in at 6 to 8 reps, and then either do a back off set or drop set, but you still also built up to that set. So I
Yeah.
think people it gets lost in translation that if you're higher volume, you can't train heavy. It's
No.
completely wrong.
So like I'm just gonna give an example of like an incline bench like exercise for myself in the off season. I'll get on there. I'll do one plate. I feel it. I do a few reps. Just feel it. Make sure I'm in the right spot. Get my bench right. All that shit. 225. I'll do for like 8 or 10. Still feeling it. 315. I'll do for like 3 or 5 reps. 365. 3 reps. 405. I'll do for a few reps. 425. Then I'll do my first working set of like 6 to 8 reps, and then I'll drop. Then I'll. That's when I started my. That's when I consider my start. Okay, so I still built up and it had to do all those sets because I'm not just going to throw 425 on and get going. Then I'll drop back down to like either 405 or like 365. Then I'll start doing sets of 10 or 12, something like that. 315, I'll do like a set of 20, and then I'm done. So I start my working set pretty high nowadays, like high in weight. You know, if I and also if I go for 425 or something and I thought I could get 6 and I only got 4, who gives a shit? I'm gonna go down and do more reps. You know, I'm not gonna like fucking struggle and shake there and blow my shoulder out. Oops, nope, it's too heavy. Rack it, dude. Drop the weight. Do some more reps. You know, like I don't get like all spun up like, oh, I'm weaker this week. It's not like that.
No,
So
no. Those are all great points. Do you want to hit another question? I think that pretty much covers off season. I hope we didn't rant on too long.
no, I think it was a good point on there. Yeah. Let's go ahead and put this one up here. I think this would be like a good thing to like kind of end on
That is a
for
good one.
today. So good slash unusual tips for first time competitors that most people don't know.
Good unusual tips for first time competitors that people don't know.
I'll start throwing tips out there that I think are helpful. Um, I've said this before. Uh, your first show, you're gonna feel like this is your Mr. Olympia, which is great. I think it's great to be competitive, but also this is not gonna be your best look. You're gonna get better. You know, you're not gonna be as shredded
That's a good one.
as Andrew Jacked. It's gonna get better. Um, and also like I said, it's not that deep. You know, you're learning how to diet, you're learning how to train, and you're learning how to balance out your entire life. And one thing is like include your family members in it, include your friends. Don't block them all out, and just dude try to have some fucking fun because like you're doing this for fun. It's a hobby. You know, you're not a professional. So don't make it miserable for yourself and your family. Like enjoy yourself, enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, and enjoy the lessons you learn along the way. Because if you do, like Jason told me, he goes, if you apply the effort that you put into bodybuilding into a business, you'll be a millionaire. And working on that now. And I believe that.
Those are all great tips. Another one, surface level one. Make sure you have a lot of money to spend. I know we've spoken about this.
Don't be a
It
broke bitch,
is
all right?
no, aside
It's
from
true.
just you don't want to be broke in general for
Yeah.
bodybuilding, it is going to be expensive. We've again
Hmm.
canning, if you have to fly to the show, hotel, registration for the show, your coach, your food, your gear,
Your
your
suit.
blood work that you may have to run. All that adds up. You need to make sure you have money because one, you should not be running yourself broke for bodybuilding, and two, it's another stressor to add in. Chris just brought up a good point about not being a dickhead to the people around you. Those are the people that support you. And if you're one of those guys that is like, well, if my wife and my girlfriend or my boyfriend and husband's not there after, well, fuck it, I still have bodybuilding. That is foolish. Because if these people love and support, if you want these people to support you, don't be an asshole to them. It's that simple, and I think it's complete. And I've seen this. If you wanted to, we were talking about how people make up side effects to convince themselves. I've seen people convince themselves that they were tired and fatigued, and they acted out towards, and you could tell it was an act, because they had this perceived notion that, oh, you're in prep, you're going to feel like shit. And I saw them treat people like shit. Meanwhile,
Yeah,
they weren't
bro. Yeah,
anywhere close to being in
they're
shape.
playing the role.
So that's, and listen, exactly, there's no reason to play a role, and nor is it any reason to treat people like shit, especially if you're choosing to take things that you're not supposed to take and do things that you're not supposed to do. At least control yourself. And if you can't control yourself, then it's not for you. So,
Just
as Chris said, treat those people around you with respect and audit yourself. Listen, I can't say I'm a perfect person. I'm far from it. My early days, I was like, oh, yeah, until I got a wake up call that it wasn't really
you
all
don't get it,
that.
mom. It's not
Yeah,
a phase, mom.
yeah. So treating those people with respect, having fun, like Chris said. But aside from all that, now back to talking about hard competing, give it your absolute all.
Mhm.
You may not look the best as Andrew Jack. It is the first step in a very long journey. And the only way you're going to know if this is for you or not is if you give it your all. You have to give it your all. And again, that making sure you have money and making sure you're treating people as well, but you have to make sure you are following everything your coach says. You are giving everything with full intention, full effort, because you won't know how good you are at something or if something is for you until you give it your all. So, again, at the end of the day, these are competitions. These are not beauty pageants. I don't think you want to place last. Listen, if you do and you gave it your all, it is what it is. You
Mhm.
have to get better. Somebody wins, somebody loses. But at the end of the day, these are competitions. These were never meant to be beauty pageants, or the kind of article for beauty pageants, but they were never meant to be participation contests. Oh, I lost all this weight. They're competitions at the end of the day. Somebody wins and somebody
Yes.
loses. Give it your absolute fucking all and see what you look like in the end. Is it for you? Great. Get better. Take the time to get better. So giving it your alls is, listen, first time or not, you should be giving your all no matter what. Um,
And
Other unusual tips? What are you gonna say?
so on that too, like you can give it your all, and you could want to win without being a fucking asshole either. And I don't mean to your friends and family. I mean like to the other competitors and your coach. Okay, don't be a dick to me because like I want it just as bad as you do. I promise you. And
Hmm.
I oftentimes I feel like I want it more. So like you were there with me in Vegas. Like I can still have a good time. You can still be happy between sets and all the kind of stuff. You don't have to be like fucking hood on, like fighting demons all the way up.
It was a
Relax.
breeze.
Just relax.
I don't give you enough credit. It was a breeze. I would go to shows every single weekend. I don't have a reason to do that. If it was that, I will say this to a compliment, whatever. Give Chris credit. Being there at a show with him is the easiest thing ever. We laugh, we talk. He doesn't stress about a thing. Nothing. There's no bad. I didn't see you get a bad attitude once with anybody. I didn't even see you really get frustrated once. It was just cool, calm, and collected the entire time, having fun. Yeah, you were focused. You
And I
were
wasn't always
nailing
like that.
everything.
I wasn't always like that, but also it's easier to focus if you're having a little bit of fun. My
Yep.
workouts are better when I'm having fun in them. Like I shoot the shit between sets and I lock in. You lock in for the minute you're under the weight, and then you can, if you want to fuck off a little bit. You don't have to pretend it's like this whole thing that it's not. Just have a good freaking time, and it's not going to be so stressful. Laugh about it. Like, oh,
Chris,
this flight
that's
got
a
canceled.
great
Figure it
point.
out.
That's
You
a good
know.
point. Is people place the stress on themselves because they take it serious to a point that it doesn't have to be to that point. And me getting involved and training martial arts for the past 3 years and change, whatever it has been, even though I haven't fought yet, which I will at some point because I get sick too
Yeah.
much. But it has changed being around some of the best coaches in the world, and they are some of the best coaches in the world, some of the best athletes in the world. These are people who are training to fight other human beings. And a common denominator I have seen between them all is that even when they're a week out from their fight, they're smiling in the gym. And mind you,
Yeah.
these people, as you know, these guys and girls are going through extreme weight cuts to make weight and still having to perform twice a day and train. And what I've seen is, yeah, when they're training, they're intense, but even during training, sometimes it's playful. But when they're at an event for a fight or it's leading up to it, it is so, it is such
It's
an
light.
inviting, yeah, dude, it is like so light. And
Also,
it's like, wow.
you get punched in the face a certain amount of times, you like kind of humbles you. And I'll say this too. I'm going to say this out loud. Bodybuilders are the coolest, okay, to be backstage with. Okay. I've seen the way you bikini girls act and wellness. You guys are mean to each other. I don't know fucking why. The physique guys, they're like mean. I don't know why. What are you gonna do? You're gonna fight on stage? No, like
Well,
when I'm backstage
bodybuilders do
with,
that too.
yeah, I mean, there's a couple assholes,
Yeah.
but for the most part, like some of my best buddies I've competed against. Like
Yeah.
I met guys at junior nationals. Well, actually, we really didn't talk about team nationals, but still, we did kind of compete against each other. We're different weight classes, but I have a lot of friends that I met backstage at bodybuilding shows that were cool. Like and that's a big difference. You go to some of these small shows, nobody talks to each other. You want to get rid of some nerves, talk a little bit. Ask
It's
where are you
true.
from, bro? I met guys who were in the military. They're airborne. Oh, you're in the airborne too. Oh, great. So you make friends, and it gets rid of the nerves a little bit. You can relax. You don't have to be like even if you are gonna freaking fight, that's what I'm saying. So it's a good point because you go to a jujitsu gym and everyone's having a good time, they're rolling, and some of the nicest guys I've ever met were people who could fucking kill you if they wanted to, you know.
Chris, correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of times before guys in the military, especially SF, go out on missions, I'm sure there are very high tense moments, but for the most part, from what I've been told and from what I've saw, it's aside from the tension that goes on, it's a pretty light environment. Am I correct?
I'll say this: it's on and off. So there's times to be light, there's time not to be light. So we're doing PCs, PCIs, which is like we're checking our equipment. It's okay. Let's dial in for a second. Okay, I check you, you check me down the line, your leadership, whatever, and then back to saying gay jokes and saying terrible things to one another. So like
But
you
this,
just
but this, pro- this proves my point.
yes, yes. So it's knowing to lock in, focus. Okay, we're good. That's it.
It's that proves my these men are getting ready to go out and possibly literally people talk about going to war. That's it right there.
You're not going to
But
war, dude.
that's no, you're going to. It's funny. Me and a friend of mine were talking about
This
shows in
is your war.
Vegas.
For,
Yeah, come on. I did that when I was younger, and then eventually I realized how silly that was.
yeah.
But I was also a teenager. But again, an unusual tip is just have fun. Don't you're not going into battle, and the lighter a room can be, the more laid back it can be, the better things are going to work. Like I see some of these coaches, they're like it's like they put on a mean face, and I'm you saw me. I'm like, all right, we're gonna do 3 ounces of chicken, 300 white rice, take a little diazide, all right, and that's it. And then
Hmm.
we kind of just joke around. It doesn't have to be this high tense environment
Hmm.
for no reason because all you're doing is placing more
Everyone's
stress
walking
on
on
yourself.
eggshells at the house and all that stuff. Like, don't fuck with Chris. He's thirsty.
Doesn't
Like,
have to be like that. You know what's funny
yeah,
is not to go too off topic on this. I
yeah.
remember when my dad did his first show. That whole prep, and I think I spoke of. He worked 7 days a week. Some days would work to 8, 9 o'clock at night doing concrete, and he would cook dinner for my family. And on Sundays, since he couldn't eat, he would make cannolis. He would make his sauce, all the things that he couldn't eat. Chicken parm. It was amazing. He's a great cook.
Mhm.
But what I remember from him was I was sleeping in the joined hotel room. My friend Mike, we were in Connecticut at his first show. Here, here, knock on the door. We're sleeping. Wake up. Like, what the fuck? Here he comes rolling in with a smile. He goes, "Got breakfast for you guys." big smile on his face. Mind you, this man just did 3 hours of cardio every day for 8 weeks on zero carbs with no refeeds. And he probably had about 5 diazides and no water in 2 days because I didn't know what I was doing at 16 years old. And he was as happy as could fucking be. And I remember seeing that when I was young, and I was like, man, that's strange. That's like that's that's a choice. This man just killed
Yeah.
himself to
Yes.
get, and it's a choice. So having that light environment really is just going to help you in the long run with stepping on stage.
And I'll tell you, I think the military did that for me. I'll say this ahead of time. I'm not going to say that I was the best soldier in the world, okay? But you learn to deal with shitty situations. Like I can't tell you how many times you go out on your patrol or something, you come back like in the Arctic environment, and you have no fucking water. You just finished. You're like sweating, but it's like 10 degrees outside. You go to drink your water and it's frozen. You're like, okay, and then you're like, I'll get some when we get back to the talk or whatever, and then we call it a water buffalo. It's like a big trailer with water. That's all frozen too. You're just like, because nobody turned the heater on. So you're just like, no water. You're like, all right, well, I guess we'll go melt some snow. And then you melt snow, then you shit your pants because you get like giardia or something. Like, and you're like, I've seen guys shit their pants like in the field on patrols, and we wear overweight, so you just got a big shit stain on their back. Like, and you're like, oh, how bad could it be? Okay. I, I can't tell you how many bad times I've had. I remember at selection, it was just raining and like 33 degrees. Just because God was like, you know what, I don't want to actually freeze. I just want you to be hypothermic for a couple days. And I can tell you, my temperature was like 86 when I came back. But you're going through creeks and rivers and all these terrible things and everything, and then you get on the treadmill. And you're like, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. So
It's a
like I
fucking
think that
treadmill.
yeah, I think that definitely changed me. But getting a little older changes a little bit too. But
Yeah,
and that's not to say this. I want to like after we said all that, that doesn't mean I don't like to fucking win. I love fucking winning. I love it. It feels way better than losing. Second place sucks. Okay,
does.
but like it's just understanding how to lock in. It's understanding how to focus. And when you get under the weight, I do still believe what Dorian said about it's life or death. Like you will complete the reps. Like you're searching for failure. It's a privilege to fail. That's what you're aiming for. You know, the, just because we're saying be lighthearted, it also doesn't mean be nonchalant and not hit your poses hard and not everything. It's knowing how and when to lock in and knowing, when to you should still be giving it your all. You just don't have to be a dick about it. That's all I'm saying.
That's the perfect way to run. That was a good disclaimer to put in that because I wouldn't want anybody to take that as if, oh, I'm not going to take this seriously. You should very much take it seriously and want to win. But there's a time and place for those certain gears to kick in. No pun intended. So,
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a good way to leave it off, bro.
yeah. Yeah. I
Perfect.
know we
Pretty
ranted
much.
on, ranted on for a while. I think we got some good information out there.
Absolutely. All right, man. So I'll finish this off, guys. If you can like and subscribe, we love it. We love seeing it, man. And it's been all the support has been freaking awesome. If you guys have any suggestions, you got some topics you guys want to bring up, put it in the comments. You can reach me at IFBB Pro Chris Massaro on Instagram and your Instagram, Dom.
Dom Cardone, IFBB.
Yeah, man. Send us a DM if you want to see something on the show or someone on the show. Let us know. Other
Yeah,
than
that
that,
would be great. Yes. Till next time.
till next time, bro.
Later.